Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamer Dad, with another video for you. So I do apologize for the late upload. I've been busy, of course. Gamer Dad is also a working dad, and so this video will show the extreme levels, stages 1 to 3. Now, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. Now, the extreme versions are essentially the same type of fights as the normal version. However, the difficulty of it obviously is ramped up quite a bit. And so they do still give hints in the beginning of each stage, as well as the requirements in terms of getting full marks, so to speak. And so the first stage is, of course, weak to magic. So if you do have a magic zone team, that would be best. However, I haven't experimented with non-zone. Garyo should still do quite well, and if you have at least one other mage, hopefully you'll be able to mitigate some damage either with an elemental zone or through other means. That being said, being that these two enemies are physical, we can just beat them down using the magic zone. Obviously, we can apply debuffs using AS Rosetta. We have Explosion from Manifested Garyu, boosting everyone's staff damage by 50%. And of course, Mariel with Manifest does give crit damage to all magical attacks for one move. AS Myris is there for her powerful AoEs with her Transform Claw, and keep in mind that if you really are having trouble with a lot of damage, you can reduce the MP of AS Myris before entering, being that her moves do a lot more damage when she's low on MP, and so you can definitely do that as a trick if you need that little extra punch in order to end the fight. So there's only 3 stages there, or 3 waves, shall I say. And you can clearly see with a few AoEs that are magical, is fairly straightforward to beat it. You do have to not use another force there. So you notice that there's no AF. And so remember, if the difficulty is too high, beat it first with any means necessary, and then go back and get all the full marks later on with all the specialized criteria. Now, being that these are extreme levels, I am showing all the Grasta loadout and weapon loadout as well. And I will say for extreme levels, I had to play around with a lot of Grasta, especially in the later fights. This video also includes the stage 3, which by far was the most difficult I've experienced. I spent many hours actually experimenting with it, tinkering with Grasta, team composition, and so on and so forth. And so that was some of the reason why it was a little bit slower to upload than usual. Now, stage 2 brings us back to the Industrial Ruins. We're going to take on Xenodomain's Synth Drone, followed by Helena, and then combination of Helena and Galliards. So they do have some criteria that you do have to have certain characters on your team, although Amy as well as Rika, and so it is a little bit difficult, being that some of them may not be as powerful as some of the gacha characters that we're used to. Good thing is that with the Goddess of Time, when it comes to the new update, we will have updated main story characters, and they'll be a lot more powerful. But for now, we do have to tolerate that they're a little bit less powerful than we'd like. I am using Yuri. He's a great hybrid / healer. He also increases the crit rate for your team, and so it really helps do a lot of damage, especially when you're enhancing the damage of the likes of Felmina. Now, the enemies here are weak to wind, and so if you do have any sort of wind zone, such as AS Claude, AS Vena, and you have wind type moves, Felmina is one of the best. Yuri is great and free. Amy, of course, is free. She still has some damage with her Blast Elysium. She has the double Hurricane if you'd want to do that instead. Otherwise, the whole goal is to bar on turn 1, being that the Synth Drone, if you don't kill it right away, it can be very, very easy to end you with super laser beam attacks, so to speak. In this case, we're just building up our bar. Note that we are having to build it from scratch, since between each wave you don't get a recharge AF bar. We used it up in turn 1, and so we are forced to kind of build it up. Note that the enemies don't have a ton of HP. I think in the only a few million, and so as long as you can mitigate damage, we have Guardian Field, and we can deal a decent amount of damage, heal every turn, and we have Wind Zone protecting us as well. This stage of the fight isn't too difficult. Now, the last stage is a little bit tricky. Keep in mind that with Helena and Galliard, if you guys have done the story, keep in mind that they are kind of like soulmates. If you defeat Helena, then Galliard goes on a rampage and destroys you. If you destroy Galliard first, then Helena will go on a rampage and destroy you. And to make things worse, Galliard actually has a 50% HP stopper. And so the whole goal here is kind of to wear down both of them and eventually end them with one fell swoop. And so we're going to stack a bunch of debuffs on the enemy. Note that Felmina can add all those physical resistance. We are draining everyone down, and we are leaving Helena with only a little bit, as well as Galliard with half HP since we can't burn him further. We also do want that Pain and Poison set by Licorice Blossom, because really the 3-hit combo with Felmina's punch, the Tri-Cataclysm, will be able to end it, especially with some wind resist debuffs courtesy of AS Claude. And so we're just going to hit it right there. Boom, 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 boom. The limits are removed. So if you don't kill her this turn, it's going to hurt really badly. However, we do get to act first, and so the good thing is we can just end it with one hit. Now, in later stages, sometimes the enemy will act first, in which case, again, the fight will end not in your favor, and you will die, unfortunately. So, the most important thing, obviously, is to not get killed, and of course, if you can fulfill some of the other criteria in one go ahead and do that. If you can't, then like I said, you can always come back a little different time, and like I said, all content is permanent, so be patient unless you want to spend hours and hours at the game. This week has definitely been very busy with the updates. Let me know in the comments below how you've liked the boss rush so far, or the battle simulator, shall we say, and how your successes or failures have been so far. I will say, in starting from stage 3, you do almost have to heavily use Grasta, as well as modified Grasta, such as those Orin enhanced ones, which are only available after chapter 76, and so the difficulty ramps up quite tremendously from here. This one gave me a lot of trouble, like I mentioned earlier. The reason why is there is a lot of restrictions. There is an all-male team, and you have to end it within 15 turns, and of course not die in the process as well. That made it extremely difficult to choose a team, being that there's only a number of men in the game. AS Seal does count as a male if you choose to use AS Seal on your team. In this case, we're going to go all slash team, and so I went with Victor, Aldo, we got Yuri, Gilna, Crest, as well as Cyrus. Now, the enemies, there's 4 stages or 4 waves, and each of them have different and various weaknesses and resistances. And so in this stage, it's weak to blunt as well as to wind, and so you have some options. I'm using Victor basically to use a 1-turn AF, and the reason for that, we need to wear this golem down to a small amount and try to power up our bar until we have at least a half bar AF. And the reason for that is, if you don't, the very next stage can be very difficult, and it actually they almost have like a preemptive attack where it'll kill you. So we are using Crest to establish Slash Zone. Now the good thing here is Slash is very useful, especially non-elemental. However, some of the bosses can re-establish Zone. Now wave 2, that red dawn, or that the dinosaur, can re-establish Zone if you don't attack right here. Now if you don't, it not only re-establishes Fire Zone, it AoEs you for 5+K, and most of the time you will die. Keep in mind that because we don't have access to a male water zone, AS Shigiri is not out yet, then you are forced to use only really, in terms of zone, you have AS Claude, I guess, if you want to use Wind, or you can use, like we said, Crest. If you're wondering where the pain status is coming from, most of our characters here are enhanced pain Grasta. That is, we put the pain Grasta on and use the dormant ore to enhance them such that they can apply pain occasionally. And the reason for that is by having multiple pain Grasta on your DPS, the damage multiplies. So 1.3 or 30% more times to the power of 3, as opposed to elemental Grasta, which is 30 plus 30 plus 30. Not to mention, some of the attacks, like I said, will be ineffective, and so we really want to use the Pain Grasta because they allow all the different enemy of our characters' attacks to be effective. In this case, Ogre and Corm is very dangerous as well. You can see that kind of earth physical AoE attack. So we do need to use not only Guardian Field to heal, we also need Distortion to protect ourselves. Guardian Field does have a 25% type resist shield, and so at least it lets you survive a little bit more. And without Distortion, again, you run the risk of getting hit for over 3,000 and unfortunately can die. Now, if you're wondering where the regeneration is coming from on Yuri, I will show you that at the end with the Grasta. However, I am using a Grasta I did win from the beating the twins, which calls Victory Celebration. It regens MP a little bit every turn and a little bit of HP. And the reason why we're doing that is because Yuri is relied on a lot. His attacks that increase crit damage, increase crit rate are used a lot, and he heals a lot. He's our only healer on this team essentially. And so he can run out of MP really quickly, and on earlier runs I found that it was difficult to maintain any level of MP, and sometimes by the final round or two I didn't have any. So I decided to put Victory Celebration Grasta to help regen that during the fight. Now, you can experiment and see if you don't need that, or if you can be a little bit more thrifty with your MP, in which case you can just put another Pain Grasta or Elemental Grasta if you'd like. So if you're wondering about the rotation, you can see that he has an HP stopper at 50%. He actually has another one, I believe, at 90% or so. And so you can't actually bar it down completely. Not only that, remember, you still do have to fulfill the 15 move criteria if you want all 3 rewards in one go. I would highly recommend beating it just with the male team and not dying first, and then going back and slaughtering it with some sort of water zone team, being that at that point you won't have any restrictions and you just have to beat it within 15 turns. This stage was one of the hardest because each stage is almost like a stage of the twins where you have to not push them over and kill them. You have to essentially rebuild a bar before the beginning of the next wave. And the reason for that is if you don't, you won't be able to handle the boss's moves. Either they can kill you right away, or you just won't do enough damage and you'll run out of time, or both. So in this case, we are using Calamity essentially, and we're using Celestial Saber. Gilna is extremely useful here. He has AoEs, and if you're wondering on Wave 2, the dinosaurs, although are fire-based, they are only resistant to fire. They are not immune to fire, and they do not absorb fire. So you can still do damage with it, although it is reduced in amount. And you can see that Calamity was able to end it right there, as opposed to extending it one turn. By the time we get here, we only have a couple of turns left. I believe this is the start of turn 13. Now, if you're wondering why I rotated Crest to the back, this is exactly why. You have to be able to re-establish Zone, because Fire Zone gets established at the beginning of this wave by the Salamander. And of course, if you leave Fire Zone up, well, you know, you're going to die. Not to mention, you won't be able to continue powering the AF with your moves. Now, in the case of Cyrus, we have some interesting options. We have his Enku Broken attack, which is a water-based attack. We also have his non-elemental slash attack 3x XL hit. That one is actually enhanced by his personal weapon, and I decided to use that during the AF over using his water attack, only because I did feel that the combo multiplier might play a role in kind of having enough damage to finish off the Salamander. Again, you can play around with it and see if you find the water attack better, or if the 3x non-elemental attack better. So in this case, we're just going to slash it down. Note that I removed Gilna because his most powerful attack is Calamity, which is fire-based, and I rotated back although in. Not only is his VC very useful because it increases power and defense of our team, physical defense, by 30%, his non-elemental attack is the Dragon God Slash, which is a stackable 20, 10, 10, 10 physical slash resistance down. And note that we just had enough damage to end the Salamander. So again, we were able to establish Pain, which was RNG dependent as well. And I'll be honest, it is very, very close. It's a very tight DPS check. And not only that, it is a tight time test as well. Note that I had to go back and experiment because the first time I beat it was 16 turns instead of 15, which was actually quite upsetting, to be honest. Anyways, in our final fight here, there's the loadout. I used Victor mainly to carry Grasta and share those abilities with the rest of the team, being that we actually rely on Yuri quite a bit for some damage. And of course, even though Cyrus isn't nearly as powerful, having him add anything is better than nothing. And remember that he does add the 3x hit, which adds combo. Note that Gilna has a lot of, again, you can see all the enhanced pain. We have Void Grasta, which is also shared. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.